welcome everybody to the latest episode of My Career Story Live with me, your host, Steve Keith, founder of The Branding Man. This is the latest episode of our new live series. So we have video and sound with this. So you'll be able to watch this on demand if you're joining us live today, following today's recording. And then we'll also be turning this into an audio file and adding into the mix with the existing episode of the podcast as well. Now, today's guest is Davide Pagnotta. So Davide and I first recorded probably maybe about 12 months ago now, I think. And I'm living back at home in the Lake District now. I'm out of London. I can see out of the window to my right that it's pouring with rain. And I know it was raining the day that I went to his flat in London to record what has become quite rare with recordings for the podcast, in that they've been in person. I remember getting a fabulous lunch cooked for me as well afterwards, which was great.
All vegan.
It was very nice and very much appreciated. So welcome back to the show, first of all, Davide. How are you?
Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm very good. It's and it's not raining now here.
Just rub it in a little bit. So Davide is going to take us through, as advertised, kind of how to wake up to the life that you love living. I've got that wrong, haven't I, already?
How to create
the beauty of being live. You go for it. So you introduce it, Davide.
So the theme of the podcast is how to create a life that you love waking up to.
Then we should give you hosting rights here. Before we do that, what I wanted to go through very quickly is just a recap of the episode that we recorded last year. So I was listening to it again this morning as I was out in the rain walking the dog. And I know it's going to speak to a lot of probably what you're going to cover today, but some of the things that I pulled out of there that I remember were focusing on creativity and passion, and how important that can be to your career and how it can power the work that you're doing. Resonating with me quite a lot, the conversation that we're having around my own journey. I like to call my which career, no idea syndrome. I was kind of floating around for about 10 years before I actually found a career that I was passionate about, that I could see that had a common thread going through it, which for me was young people and supporting them into the workplace. But also as well, a really beautiful piece that you talked about building a cathedral. And there was a piece in there as well that I pulled out as one of the quotes that I used for the trailer for season 3 of the pod, around kind of you saying that we're not trees, we can move. Which I think a lot of people kind of can be, is dangerous for a lot of people, and they just get stuck. So that's just kind of a very brief introduction to our previous conversation, and that episode is available if people are going to go and listen, and I'll share it in anything that gets sent out after today's recording. But I will hand straight over to you, Davide. So give us an introduction to yourself for those that are new to you and to the podcast, and also the work that you do at Wise Humanity.
Thank you, Steve. So something else that was different when we first had our chat was actually Wise Humanity. That we had a dream about it, but it hadn't been launched yet back then.
Yeah, I remember.
So brief introduction about myself. A very eclectic life. Born in Italy, educated through literature first, then physics, then engineering, a life in engineering, and then landing in helping people grow, even when they're already grown-ups. Well, this is actually what Wise Humanity does. And I co-founded with a friend and colleague that I've been working with for 4 years now. And we've also been working together with Dr. Rao, that is a person that has a great impact in our lives and has introduced us to many of the teachings there and the concepts that we actually work with today with Wise Humanity as well. So Wise Humanity is an organization, and as I mentioned, we help people continue their journey of personal growth, even when they're already grown-ups. Life, in a way, is just a continuous journey of growth. Everything that happens to us, every event, but also every relationship that we hold, every conversation that we have is an opportunity to grow, whether we know or know it, or whether we know or don't know it.
That's a good point.
And by starting to look at the right things for the right things, then we can actually create a growth and a life that serves us and that helps us live in happiness and fulfillment. And so that's what we do. We help people on this journey and let go of all the habits and beliefs that are limiting them, and access all the inner resources that they have and that can launch them through fulfillment and self-realization.
Mm-hmm.
And we have also a big eye on community. That's what we call wise humanity. And a community of people that are compassionate and care for each other and for the planet as well.
Mm-hmm. And that, I imagine that community piece is really important for you as well, because I remember from our conversation that you'd spent a lot of time immersing yourself in the alumni community, and that's how you got close to Dr. Raya and everything, and been handed the baton. Yeah.
So, and even with that was like that with Dr. Rao, and it's the same with Wise Humanity, that our programs, for example, they're just a portal, and we help people go through the first door of looking inside and awakening to becoming the protagonist of their lives rather than the victim. And then there's a whole world after that, and through the community of all the people that have been through a similar journey through our courses, we help continuously everyone on their journey.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you to launch into the topic for today of creating that life that we love waking up to. But for those of you that are watching, and thank you for joining us as well, please do feel free to ask any questions whilst Davide is talking. Use the Q&A function at the bottom of Zoom here. I will bring those up if and when there's an appropriate time. If not, we'll hold them till the end of the presentation, and then if you have any technical difficulties, just pop them in the chat box. I will be monitoring those as we go through, but I will hand the floor back to you, Davide. So how do we create a life that we love waking up to?
So actually, rather than answering this question, I'd like to take a step backwards first. What is a life that we love waking up to? One of the things I love about working with people and their quest for happiness and fulfillment and peace is that everyone is a universe. Everyone has their own vision of happiness, their own vision of self-realization, their own vision of the role that they're going to play, they want to play in the world, in their life.
Mm.
And this is the same for the definition of a life that people love waking up to. Some people have a strong sense of purpose, for example. Mm-hmm. They wake up and they have a goal that they want to work for. An entrepreneur, for example, that is passionate about their company. A good politician that really cares about the well-being of their people. Some people have a strong sense of community or connection. There's a word that we love using a lot, that is connectedness. Yeah. Some people feel that they're part of something bigger than themselves, and waking up to that every morning, but that's what they love. So, and it doesn't have to be like a crazy, it can be your family. Some people wake up happy, loving, waking up to being part of their family and helping, doing their contribution to make it grow, and for everyone to enjoy their lives. Some people have identify themselves with larger communities. Some people identify themselves with the whole world and just embrace the world whenever they wake up. Some people have a strong sense of gratitude and feel that they have talents that they love using in their life. So I'm thinking of artists, for example, singers, or even leaders or CEOs. I know some people are really good at empowering others, and that's what they love waking up to every day. So the definition of that, what a love, your mistake as well. What a life that you love waking up to, the definition of that is really, really different for everyone. What is the same for everyone is that at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we operate in similar ways. Mm-hmm. So the tools and the mechanisms that we can use are similar for all of us. That's exactly what Wise Humanity is about, for example. And reviewing what these empowering tools are and how to apply them in your life. And one of the things that is also very common to everyone is that we look for happiness, we look for fulfillment outside. We look for a good job, we look for a nice car, a nice flat, traveling to exotic destinations. These are all beautiful things, absolutely. Yeah. And they make a lot of sense, and they're a practical aspect of our journey that is life. Yeah. But if we're looking for answers to what makes me happy, what gives me meaning, if I look for answers to these questions outside, well, I'm basically giving the responsibility of my happiness. I'm handing the keys of my happiness outside. Yeah. And there's a story that we actually, my friend and co-founder wrote a blog about it 2 weeks ago, I think. There's a story that we like telling a lot. There's this woman that is running in the evening. It's dark, and she bumps into a man that is looking for something on the floor under a street lamp. And so she stops and asks him, what have you lost? And he goes, oh, I lost my car keys. And then she starts helping him as well. And so they're both looking, and after a few minutes, they can't find the car keys. And then the woman asks the man, but are you sure you lost your car keys here? And he goes, oh, no, I lost them over there where my car is. And then she goes, but why are we looking for them here? And he goes, because here is the light. Mm-hmm. And this is about the story of all of us, that we look for the answers, and we look also for the resources outside where the light is. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we don't know that we actually have so many resources inside. Sometimes we're afraid to close our eyes and find ourselves lonely, quietly in the darkness. And it makes us feel very uncomfortable. But that's where we need to start doing the work, because everything is inside. So I use the word awakening for this, and it's awakening to the fact that everything that happens to us and the experience of life that we go through is all because of what we hold inside. You're frozen? Okay. So this is a fundamental concept. we go through life again. We go through life blaming events for our well-being or for our emotional state. I've just been to the office and my boss made me angry, or my friend disappointed me, or the underground was very crowded and I got very nervous. I was driving, someone cut in front of me, almost caused an accident, and I went into rage. And we always say that it's something else that had caused it, but it's not. It's something has happened. The way we react to it is all inside ourselves, in the mental maps that we hold, in the habits that we hold, in our view of the world. And this is the awakening to the fact that we hold, again, whether we are conscious or not about it, whether we know or not, we are responsible for our whole experience of life. And for example, if we keep finding ourselves in a situation that keeps repeating and is unpleasant or difficult to go through for us, it always means that there's some of our mental maps, some of our beliefs about the world are not serving us, are not helping us. And this is another fundamental way of how mind and body works. Whenever a situation keeps presenting itself and is uncomfortable, creates some sort of uncomfortable for us, unhappiness, sadness, fear, guilt, it always means that there's something in the way that we see it, in our view of the world, in the stories that we tell ourselves, that is not working well for us.
Yeah.
And the great awakening is that, yes, we have the responsibility of this, tough luck, but that means also that we can change it if we look inside. In one of our courses recently, one person said it in a way that I loved. For example, when you're having a conversation with someone, a friend, family, a colleague, whatever, and there's something that you don't like about them.
Mm-hmm.
This student of ours said, "There's something about you that I don't like about me." And
that's a good way of,
So even in that case, yes, if someone is annoying or says something that hurts us, yeah, of course, something has happened. So there is something that I need to take care of. But my experience of it is because of my own mental maps. It's because of my own view of the world, my own view of what a work relationship should look like, what a family relationship should be like. So this is the awakening of, okay, this is my responsibility. There's a book that we recommend before people start our course, our main program. I actually have it here. I'm sure you've heard about it. Viktor Frankl has mentioned.
I think you've mentioned this to me.
Oh,
as
okay.
Well. Yeah.
So this person went through the Holocaust, through the concentration camps, and he still found, and there's so many profound quotes in that book, and he still found his ability and his freedom to choose, to find happiness and peace in regardless what was happening around. And the book has a nice way to say that in between something that happens to you and your response, there's a moment, and your freedom is in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But that freedom is not under the street lamp. It's in the darkness.
And you have to be able to catch it.
and you have to be able to catch it. So
Yeah.
So the first thing I would say about how to create a life that you love waking up to is, of course, continue working on everything that you want to achieve in life and everything that creates your practical life in the world. But don't overvalue it. The fundamentals of your experience of life are inside yourself. So start the journey inside yourself and see what are all these beliefs that are not serving you, and work on them. You know, these journey of personal growth journeys, there's nothing that, you know, I always say that there's nothing that we need to learn, and there's nothing that we need to fix about ourselves. But there's stuff that we need to drop.
True. Yeah.
And so growth, personal growth, is dropping all the layers that for some reason in the past they helped us, and then we started we adopted them, and we started seeing the world that way. But today, if you're not feeling happy, then it means that there's some of these layers are not helping you anymore. I need to drop them. I'm thinking, for example, that, you know, there's a part, for example, when you start your career or whatever work you're doing, and this is also my experience of life, of work, that it was all about work. I loved it, and it was. I found it fulfilling. It gave me satisfaction. It gave me meaning. I was working so many hours, weekends. I was really passionate about it, and then you get to a point where then what happened, for example, in my life, that when I started Wise Humanity, for example, with the same idea of work ethic, I found myself working like 12 hours a day, weekends included. And I was actually getting sick.
Yeah.
Physically sick, but not only physically, also emotionally, because I realized that some traits of I wasn't enjoying life. And so there was, again, I had this mental map, this idea about work ethics, where particularly at the beginning of your career, or particularly when you start a new company, then you really have to work. That's all you have to do. And this was my belief. And it wasn't helping me. So I had to go through the process saying, okay, what is the belief that is not helping me here? And it was hard to abandon it, because if you then don't work hard enough, you start feeling guilty. But also the guilt is part of that belief.
Yeah.
So and then you start to realize, okay, what is the new, more empowering belief that I can use here? And then that taking care of myself, of my mind and my body, and not working 12 hours a day was actually helping me reach my goal of Wise Humanity, rather than keeping me away from it. So I had to start telling myself a different story about what a good entrepreneur does. So I dropped the old story, and I embraced a new one. And that one before wasn't giving me happiness. This one does. So this is for personal growth. I think it's basically the same. It's about dropping the layers that are no longer helping you, and replacing them with stories that are actually more empowering and more right for you in this moment in time.
Yeah. And I would guess that you must encounter a lot of people that put up resistance to that. because they're scripts that we've carried around for a long time. They're things that we've been conditioned to. They're people around us that whisper in our ear, maybe not literally, but that kind of guide us in a direction, particularly around when you're talking about starting a business and being an entrepreneur. I've kind of suffered that kind of piece as well, of working really hard, because I think that's what I've been told you have to do when you start your own business, and that if you're not hustling, and all these words that float around, that you're not doing it right. And I would imagine to get to that point of awakening, do you find that there's some kind of event, jolt, trauma, or something that somebody experiences, or do they naturally just come to that realization that actually I need to start dropping things?
I think, again, the story is different for everyone. Some people get to the point where they've achieved so much in life of you said they tell us of what people, of what society tells you should achieve. Like, you have a family, you have children, you have a nice flat, you have a nice job, you manage to save some money, and so officially you got everything. and then you realize, yeah, but why don't I feel completely fulfilled? Why do I feel like there's something more? And that's a moment where you realize, maybe I should stop doing what I've done until now and start something else, start a different journey. Some people get there when more traumatically. For example, when they lose someone important in their lives, that was an important part of their life, so much they were actually, so much that losing them makes you feel like you've lost a part of yourself, a part of your identity. Or it can also happen if you lose your job. If you've been in the same career for so many years and you almost end up identifying yourself with your job. And the moment you lose it, then who am I? And then you need to start doing a different work on yourself and saying, okay, that was my job role. What were all the skills or the strengths, or the energy and the ideas that are in me? They're not in that job role. Or sometimes happens when you feel very stuck in something. This is a word that we use a lot because basically our experience of life is the stories that we tell ourselves about it.
Agree. Yeah.
And because we can go through exactly the same event, and you will tell yourself a story about it, and I will tell myself a completely different one. This is also, I don't know if you've ever happened to ask someone that went through the same situation, ask them what happened, and they give you different accounts.
A couple of times, yeah. Not necessarily like the answer, but I've asked.
That happens, whenever you have a conversation with, I don't know, with your life partner, for example. It's the same thing has happened, but they will tell a certain story and you will tell another one. Or it happens at work with a colleague. So yeah, the stories that we tell ourselves about what is happening is actually what defines the experience of our life in that moment. And sometimes we get stuck in a certain story. I'm thinking a situation that we find ourselves in, for example, is at our age, is we aging parents, and you want to be there for them, and then you tell yourself a story of what the good son or the good daughter should be. And then you try to behave that way, but then you find it in conflict with, hang on. I also have a job I really love, and I also have my family. I also have myself that I need to think about. So the story that you were telling yourself about the good son that he's always available for the parents starts breaking down. and then you start feeling guilty or having other problems with yourself. And so how do I unstick myself from this story? And because we've always been in we've always seen life in a certain way, then it's difficult to realize, oh, hang on, this is not life, this is the way you look at it. The metaphor that we use a lot is like being in a canyon. So when you're at the bottom of the canyon, the whole world for you is just those two walls and the river.
Yeah.
And actually the river is the story that you tell yourself, because the more the river flows, the deeper you get into your story.
Yeah, as a geography graduate, I appreciate that analogy.
And then you're stuck there. For example, there might be cases where you, at work, for example, and you interpret your boss as very aggressive, almost bullying, and you feel like you almost don't belong to the company anymore. Maybe you're actually thinking of leaving, and that's the story you tell yourself. And maybe that's happened to you a number of times in life and different companies. And maybe that's a sign that is actually there's a story there that is not working well for you. And maybe that's about how the story that you tell yourself about how you relate to your boss. And while your boss has, they have their own life and their own problems, and maybe there's so many other reasons why they treat you in a certain way. It could actually be, and this is actually has happened, that you may feel that your boss is over delegating to you and not caring much about you because they actually trust you. So it's happened. And so changing the story changes your whole experience of life. But again, that story is inside ourselves. And it's we have the responsibility of that, but we also have the freedom to change it.
Yeah. Is there a piece there around you having to identify a pattern there?
Yeah,
having the tools that you need to be able to identify that, because we're all guilty, I think, of seeing or knowing that something's not right and seeing it cropping up again and again and again, but pushing it away rather than welcoming it as an opportunity to awaken or to drop things or to have an honest conversation with ourselves.
So we another habit or belief that we grew up in is what we call the if-then model. If I get the job, then I will be happy. If I have the pay rise, then I will be happy. If I have a trophy spouse, then I will be happy. And what changes if we think of our lives as a bit of that if then, what changes in time is that the if changes, but the happiness keeps running away. We just at the same stage even. Yeah, we've achieved all those ifs that we were looking for. We've achieved all of them, but in terms of profound, stable happiness, we're in the same place. So yeah, this is about, okay, I keep chasing something, and maybe then I need to look somewhere else. This actually makes me think of one of the well, there's many tools there. Our main program, for example, lasts 14 weeks. So there's it's a profound journey through all the possible, well, not all, but the most important aspects of your life. starting from how our brain works and how we create the stories that we tell ourselves, how we can change them, how to listen to the voice in our head, what it means, how the big impact that it has in life, in our experience of life. And then we go through many important topics of life, like happiness, sadness, fear, fulfillment, purpose, goals, ego, vulnerability, relationships, love and self-love, stress, so time. So we got through all of them. So, and see what are the typical stories, what are the typical mental maps that we use in those aspects of life, what more empowering ones we could be using, and how we apply them in real life. That is the one thing that Treating Wise Humanity is actually unique about, is the application. Take a concept, turn it into a tool, apply it in your life, and us, the teachers or coaches, walk next to you as you apply. So this is a journey of 14 weeks. One of the very first things that we talk about, and I believe is very powerful, is acceptance. And it's such an empowering tool on every level, both external and internal. External, something has happened and we don't accept it, and we keep thinking, oh, I should have done it differently, and I should have told my boss something different, and I wouldn't be in this situation now. I should have booked that flight when it was 50 pounds and it's now 500. And this happened to me yesterday. Or this shouldn't have happened. It's unfair. This shouldn't have happened. And then we stick ourselves. We find ourselves stuck in this, in our mind, repeating, ruminating about what happened. We don't accept it, and we guess we're stuck there. So, and if you think about it, not accepting something that has happened, it's kind of, okay, this has just happened. So if not accepting it, so I feel myself paralyzed, I deny reality, and I can spend there minutes, weeks, or years in that state. So not accepting something that has happened is, and we all do it. We resist things that have already happened. We resist them. And the other important part is the internal one. Sometimes we don't accept what we feel, and especially when it's a kind of negative feelings like fear, guilt, or stress. Fear is actually really good for the example. Fear is a fearful feeling. So sometimes we just deny it. We feel the fear, and again we get stuck. And the important bit is that we're actually not accepting the fact that we're feeling fear. And that is the first obstacle to moving somewhere else and continuing, making progress and moving on. So even when we have a feeling or a sadness, sometimes the first thing is accept it. This is happening. It's okay. We're in a global pandemic. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to have fear. Accept it. If you resist it, it will stay there. It has to transform into something else to leave you. And if you don't let it transform into something else, it will keep haunting you. And so accept it. Give yourself inside yourself a virtual hug and tell yourself, yes, it's okay to feel what I'm feeling, and embrace it, acknowledge it. There's reasons why you're feeling scared. Your economy is what it is. There's a big virus out there. We're stuck at home. There's many reasons. It's okay. It's okay to feel that. And then you say, okay. And then you start working on it, challenging it, understanding, where does it come from? What is it telling me? Fear, for example, is, I have a fear that I might lose my job. But what the fear is actually telling you is not the fear of losing your job, but it's actually the fear of not being able to find another one in the future. So there's a self-limiting belief there, which is not necessarily the job that you're going to lose or not, because particularly in situations like now, it's kind of out of our control.
Yeah.
But there's a self-limiting belief there that is telling you that you won't be able to find another one, and or that you're not good enough to find another one, or that you won't be able to learn new skills to find another one. So this is how you handle fear, for example, and acting on the external thing that is happening, and then looking inside and seeing what are the self-limiting beliefs that are making you feel the fear, and that allows the transformation, and then moving on.
And that's not going to be a fast process. As you're talking there, I'm hearing again and again in my head a phrase that's been thrown around in my life since I was a child, of kind of like, feel the fear and do it anyway. It's kind of what you're saying, but it's not, because it's dismissive of the actual process of engaging with the emotion.
That is fundamental part of every challenge that we're facing. Embrace how you're feeling about it, because your feelings are natural, and they tell you a whole story about how you see the world.
Yeah.
And that is where you need to work on how you see the world. There's another word that I mentioned in the story I was telling now, that is control. That's another big topic at our courses, because we live in the illusion of control, that if I do A, B will happen. If I study well, I will pass the exam. If I work 12 hours a day, I'll get a pay rise. And so we live in, or if I buy flowers to my partner, they'll be happy. And sometimes that doesn't happen, because you bought the flowers of the wrong color and the wrong taste, and you actually make it worse. So one big thing is control, and we live, it's cultural, we live in the illusion of control. We think we have control of things, and again, this comes with the acceptance point, that if things don't go the way we thought they should have, we don't accept it, and we get stuck, because again, not accepting is the first sign of being stuck somewhere. So accepting that we have very little control on the things around us, and the global pandemic is actually helping us realize, if we hadn't already, the control is actually in ourselves, in who we are being. In every moment of our life, I can decide who I'm being. I can decide what I'm doing to a point, and I have no control of what I'm achieving, because it's in, even if I'm a super good professional, things can still happen that are outside my control that will make my work or my project I'm working on go bad. Or the other way around, and I'm sure it happened to everyone, including myself, not studying for an exam and then going really well. It can happen. So of course there was luck, and of course I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But in terms of studying, for example, then the focus I should put, letting go of the control illusion, what I should focus on being the student I want to be, which means that I will study, I will do my homework, and I will spend some time studying, and then the exam may go well or may not go well, but I've been the person that I've wanted to be, and this is and I couldn't have done more than that. So I should still be happy with myself, and I should be fully satisfied with what I've done. And this is the same for every aspect of our life, even in personal relationships. What kind of husband do I want to be? What husband am I being? This is the father. What father am I being? And the children may grow up the way I wanted, or not, or much better. But the only thing I really have control of is what father I'm being. And that's where I should focus my energy, my emotions, my aspirations.
I think it's a good starting point for people, because I think at the moment, you've mentioned it a couple of times, we've obviously got the pandemic going on here in the UK. We're on the verge of going into another lockdown. So there's going to be a lot of people feeling like there's kind of, you're talking about control, and what I'm trying to kind of articulate is that we're being told that controlling a situation by doing this is going to get us to another point in the future. But as we were saying before we started broadcasting, and you were talking kind of like, well, we there is kind of just an inevitability now that if we follow all the guidelines, we might still catch it. So there is that kind of piece of just going with it and doing what we can, putting in the work, and letting go. And it's really hard. I've been through that process myself. As you're talking, kind of, I don't think I would ever have put myself down as a control freak, but people listening might kind of go, well, yeah, Steve. But like, I have beat myself up in my head a lot in the past for things that are beyond my control, or I've replayed moments that have happened and written a different version of how something could have happened, which, whilst it kind of made me feel a little bit better, I don't know, but it certainly didn't help me move forward. It just kind of, it comes back to that piece about you saying stuck. It just held me in a moment in time, made me feel a little bit secure and maybe safe about what I was doing, but didn't necessarily, it wasn't helpful. It wasn't a helpful practice.
Reviewing what happened and learning from it is definitely a good practice. But
yes,
but then the point is, I'm learning for it to be in the present, to live in the present, and to do something different the next time I find myself in a similar situation. But if I keep living in the past, then it's not helping me, because it's actually removing from the now, which is the only time where you're actually living. Mm-hmm. And so you get stuck, or you're clinging to something that hasn't happened, or something that has disappeared, and it takes you away from living the moment, the present, and living life, because everything in life is just now.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm mindful of time. If there's anybody that's watching the broadcast and would like to ask any questions, now's your opportunity to pop them into the Q&A box, whilst we're just waiting to see if there's any questions that pop up there, Davide. Talk us through a little bit more. I'd really like to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that 14-week course, of what people go through, how it's delivered, any questions that you normally get about that people might benefit from hearing about now.
So it's delivered through live sessions on Zoom, but they're live. And so in small cohorts, classes of 10 to 15 people, plus Elizabeth and me, and a teaching assistant, and 2 hours a week. And every week we talk about a certain topic, and we already start doing, when we discuss it together in the session, personal experiences, personal challenges, personal breakthroughs. We already do some exercise of how to apply that concept in your real life. And then the following week, everyone goes home with homework, a tool that they apply in their life daily. And then they observe themselves, see what changes, how more empowered they are, see what changes around them, even the people around them, and everybody shares their experience, so everybody learns from everyone else as well. So because every life is a universe, so that we're talking about the same problem, and everybody learns from everyone else. So, for example, an exercise that we do is called gratitude, and there's a fundamental truth, because there's also a scientific study about it, that you're happy because you're grateful, not you're grateful because you're happy. Actually experiencing the feeling of gratitude boosts your happiness. And so one of the exercises that we do is, okay, what happens if we put more gratitude in our lives? And every day we wake up and we think of 5 things that we're grateful for. Every night we go to bed and we think of 5 things that we've been grateful for during the day. What happens in your daily life? Do you sleep better? Are you a better person during the day? Do your relationships improve? And you do that for a week. So like it's a full immersion week on that one topic. Yeah. There's also in the middle of the week, there's a call in small groups of the students, just for them to check how everyone is going and have already sharing some of the experiences. And then we meet again the following week. And that's for 14 weeks.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm grateful for you giving us some time today to talk through this topic and come back on the show as well. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I love your conversations.
Excellent. Me too. Okay, so if you're watching, then thank you for joining us. Grateful to you as well for taking time out of your day to join us. If you're watching the replay, then thanks for joining us too. And if you're listening to the audio, which will be out in a few weeks' time on the podcast, then please do leave a review and subscribe so that you capture future conversations like this one with Davide on the podcast in the weeks to come. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye, Davide.
Thank you very much.